Hello everybody and welcome to Can't Afford Here, the channel that is all about campervanning on a budget. My name is Ellie the cat. My mum and dad have had to go away and they've left me to do the introduction to this video, which is all about buying your first campervan. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share and comment. I'll now hand you over to my dad.
Hola y bienvenidos a Cantaforia. Hoy estamos en un lugar que es muy especial. Hello and welcome to Cantaforia. Today we are in a very special location. We are, of course, in Bridlington, East Yorkshire. Okay, you're not buying that one. No, we flew out to sunny Spain on a last-minute holiday to get away from the miserable weather we're currently having in England. So I hope you can join me for a bit of escapism. I don't have my van with me, but I still hope to talk about buying your first camper van and be able to film from some very special locations. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the content, and I'm just off to get a long cool drink and go for a swim in the sea. Thanks for watching and let's get filming. Hello, I just thought I'd quickly show you around Cabo Roig Beach. Starting over on the left there, you can see in the distance there's a nice marina and where you can hire boats and jet skis and the like. And further round you'll see there's a number of bars and cafes where you can order a drink or a snack, and there are steps down into the sea if you fancy cooling off with a dip. Further back you'll see the beach is moderately busy today. It has just clouded over, although it's still 36 degrees. A lot of people enjoying the sunshine and having a dip in the sea. Further out there are a number of pleasure craft. Seem to be all partying on board, which is nice. I did swim out earlier, hoping I might get invited on for some smoked salmon and gin and tonic, but sadly that wasn't the case. Moving further round you can see the rest of the beach, and that's what we like about this beach. It's not too big and not too small, and it's not too busy. Hello again, I just thought I'd give you a walk around the marina. As you can see there, we're at La Bahia Beach Bar, where you can get a nice drink or snack and enjoy it in the shade, stay cool under the canopy there. And also, don't know if you can see there, but there's some steps that walk down straight into the sea. And from this little kiosk here, you can actually hire a boat. And for that smaller one at the top, you do not need a license, and it's a bargain of €80 for 1 hour. And this is the posh end of the marina, where all the expensive boats are moored. Just nice to relax and watch all the goings on. And there's a flotilla of jet skis following, so I don't know if they're owned or rented. See the sun shimmering off the water. There are quite a lot of fish. When I went swimming earlier with goggles on, you could see quite a lot of fish swimming about. In fact, when I came here with my son, he decided to, for some reason, put on a bright yellow fluorescent jacket and swam out and just bobbed about in the water, keeping cool. Didn't know what on earth he was up to, but I suppose boys will be boys. Had the €90 worth for half an hour. And this is the terrace of the bar, filmed from the other side. See everyone chilled out, relaxing with a nice drink underneath the parasol, and right by the water's edge. Plenty of people just bathing, chilling out, generally having a good time. This is what holidays are all about. Don't hesitate, just get your holiday booked. It's just perfect. Oh, hi. We're back at our apartment complex now, and as you can see, I've just been reading my August edition of the Volkswagen Transporter magazine. Sort of pornography for campervan lovers. So, we want to talk about buying your first campervan. It's more than just about saving money, it's about getting the right van to your needs. Prioritise what's the most important aspects of the van for you, depending on how you're going to use it, and of course depending on how much you've got to spend. So, to start off with, 3 things I would advise you to do before you do anything else once you've decided you want to take the plunge and buy yourself a campervan. First of all, do lots of research, lots and lots of research, and that can take the form of watching videos like this one. There are loads, there are hundreds of campervan videos. The more you watch, the more you'll learn. You'll learn something from each of them, and that's kind of how I first started. In addition to that, have a look on Auto Trader, for example, or any other website where you'll see what a huge variety of vans there are available and a wide range of pricing. Start thinking about, why is that one more expensive than that one? It could be the mileage, it could be its age, it could be the level of equipment, it could be the fact that it's been sold by a dealer as opposed to a private seller. There are a huge range of issues, and if you see one and you think, well, that looks really cheap, once you start digging down into the detail, there's usually a reason for that, because each van is absolutely unique. Because although a Volkswagen Transporter is a Volkswagen Transporter, everybody, including myself, has spent a different amount of money on it, have different needs and different priorities. But before we get on to actually viewing the vans, you need to sort of have that learning and have that understanding, so you're not wasting your time or not making a big mistake. So I said there was 3 things. The first one is research, that I've just talked about. The second one is more research, and the third one is even more research. The more research you do, the more knowledge you'll build up, the less likely you are to buy a dud. And you sound confident and know what you're talking about, the more likely you are to negotiate a good price. Hello again. Well, it happens on every single holiday I go on. You know what it's like. You're thousands of miles away from home, in the middle of nowhere, and you see somebody you recognise. Well, it's happened again. It happened today. I was walking through the village square, minding my own business. I was on my own, and I saw this middle-aged lady, and she came up and said, "Hi, Alex." I said, "Oh, hi," and got talking, and I was racking my brains. You know what it's like, isn't it? You're trying to maintain a polite conversation without giving the game away, racking your brains, and I'm thinking, is it somebody I used to work with? Is it an old girlfriend? Is it a friend of my wife's? How do I know her? But her face was so familiar. But anyway, as hard as I tried, I couldn't remember who it was. And she sussed me out after a while and said, "You don't know who I am, do you?" I said, you're very familiar, but I'm really sorry, I can't remember your name. And she says, well, you should remember me because you were the father of one of my children. Well, I went as white as a sheet. I started shaking. I thought, oh my goodness. How long ago was this? It was obviously before I was married. So I had quite an active social life before I was married. So I said, I know I went to a lot of parties and I had a few girlfriends, but this is the first I've heard of it. I says, what do you mean? I was the father of one of your children. She says, you daft idiot. She says, I'm a primary school teacher. Your son was in my class in primary school 20 years ago. I thought, oh, the relief, honestly. The absolute relief. Whew. So luckily my wife wasn't with me, so she knows no different. You may be experienced in buying cars. After all, we all own several cars during our lifetime. With vans, it's different. That is just one portion of it, and that is the base van, be it a transporter, a multivan, a combi van, or if it's a purpose-built California, if we're just talking Volkswagens. And anything except the California will have had a conversion at some stage. Now, as I see it, there are three types of van that's available to you if you're buying second hand. There is a one that was originally a new or newish van with a new conversion. There is an old van with a new conversion, or there is an old van with an old conversion. Now, no prizes for guessing that the cheapest of those three is the last one, an old van with an old conversion. Now, the new van with the new conversion is obviously going to be the most expensive. The benefit of that is that you can specify virtually everything you want. There are hundreds of converters out there, some better than others. My advice, if you're going down that route, is to stick with a well-established, reputable converter, for reasons I've spoken about before, that you know that everything's been done properly, because let's not forget, a lot of the work that's done isn't visible. When you break that down, you might be looking at anything from 30 to 40,000 plus for a new or nearly new van, say a Volkswagen Transporter. Now, a good conversion, can cost in the region of 20 to 30,000 pounds, depending on the level of equipment and how highly specified it is. So, as you can work out from that, you can quickly see why a brand new camper van, with a brand new conversion, can cost upwards of £80,000. That is an awful lot of money. The second option, I've spoken briefly about this before, is buying an old van with a new conversion. So I'm talking about a van that's had a previous life in the commercial world. It might be a delivery van, it might be a taxi, it might be a builder's van. It could be any of those things. And unless you know the history, it's anybody's guess. And you can imagine if it's, say, for example, 10 years old, which isn't unusual, then it might have had a very hard life for those 10 years. And then its kind of value at that stage is probably in the region of £5,000 to £10,000 if it's 10 years old. And that's probably for one that's in lower mileage and better than average condition. So you can quickly see if a conversion, which costs the same if you're putting it on a new van or an old van, if you're going to spend 20 to 30,000 pounds on a conversion, even then you can be up to 40,000 pounds for a 10-year-old van. It'll look superb inside, and hopefully it'll be all properly done and it'll be safe and professionally fitted. But £40,000 on a 10-year-old vehicle. That brings us on to the third type of van, which is the old van with the old conversion. Now, obviously that's going to be the cheapest, and I assume that's why you're watching this video, because you haven't got a massive budget and you want to save money where you can. Well, yes, it might be an old van, it might be 15 to 20 years old, but if it's got an old conversion, that means it was converted when it was new or newish. So you would hope, and again you need to check out the history, you would hope it's been well looked after and it's been used at weekends or the odd holiday, so it hasn't been run into the ground. It may well be low mileage, but the downside is obviously the conversion is old too. Now it might simply be old-fashioned or dated looking, but it might be certain aspects of it might be coming to the end of its life. Like on mine, which was an old van with an old conversion, I ended up having to replace the fridge and the leisure battery. Now I kind of got away with it because although it wasn't cheap to do those things, the rest of the van was okay. And at some stage, nothing lasts forever. You're going to have to replace those things anyway. So it's more of a kind of maintenance issue. But on reflection, when I look back, if I'd sussed those faults with the van, although it's not easy, I could have perhaps negotiated a slightly lower price. But everything's easy in hindsight. So there you kind of your three choices of the vans, and also the old van, old conversion combination. Think of it this way. Think of it, if it's say 20 years old, like mine is coming up to being 20 years old, think of it that when it was converted, it was like the van from the first category I spoke about. It started out life as a new van with a new conversion, and you're just 20 years down the line. So hopefully it'll be registered as a motor caravan and it'll have been looked after reasonably well. This kind of brings home the fact that whatever the van, wherever you're buying it from, you need to do the research on it. Going back to the R word, the research. If you make contact with the owner who's selling it, be it a dealer or a private seller, ask as many questions as you can. Obviously, you'll need to know the registration number. Use the registration number, if it wasn't already in the advert, to check out its MOT history. I touched on this before. So check out the MOT history, and as I say, it tells the story. You can look at the mileage year on year, so you can see if it's consistent and even, or if there's a sudden stop in the mileage. Why is that? Has it been off the road? Is there a sudden jump in the mileage? And sometimes the change in mileages, whether it be up or down, is because of a change of owner. So you get a long sort of trail, an audit trail of the history of the van if you're buying an old one with the MOTs. Obviously, if it's under 3 years old, then it won't have an MOT record. So do all that and then ask the owner as many questions as you can. So that kind of brings us to the question about, do you buy privately or do you buy from a dealer? Well, there's no hard and fast rules. It depends to a large extent on your knowledge level and your attitude to risk. If you haven't got a great level of knowledge about either vehicles or camper vans, then you need somebody who has knowledge of both. There's lots of people who know lots about cars and that, they can tell you about the mechanical state of the van, which is great, but they might not know the camper van side of things. In other words, about the conversion and the fittings and what to expect. So they might say the van's a great van, but are you overpaying for a basic conversion with little equipment, and maybe half that stuff doesn't work anyway? So just be mindful of that. So if you don't have a great knowledge or you don't have the confidence yourself, you may be better off, if you can't get somebody with that knowledge to come with you or advise you, you may be better off buying from a reputable dealer. Of course, the downside of that is that buying from a dealer, you will pay in the region of up to 20% more. So if your sort of budget's 20 to 25k, you're probably going to be paying the upper end of that. So a dealer might be charging £24,000, where you could probably negotiate a private sale for the same van for around about 20k. However, before I get all the dealers onto me, the dealer provides a service. They won't buy, or they shouldn't buy, a van that isn't fit for sale, of course. And they should have done all those history checks. They should have all that information at their fingertips. And more importantly, they should have checked all the equipment, and any defects they should have made good. And that includes in the van itself, like if there's any defects in the paintwork, or if lights are not working or anything like that, they should put right, with a respray, or make sure that they've got good tyres on it, good brakes and pads, all that kind of thing, as you'd expect from a car dealer. But also in terms of the interior equipment, like a fridge and leisure battery, a heater if it's got one, and they should ensure that all those are working properly as they should. So the risk is much less, the price is a bit more. But don't forget, the dealers have to make a profit. They have overheads and they have expenses. And if you buy privately, you've got little or no comeback. But with a dealer, I believe you've got 6 months if a fault emerges, where they should, depending on what it is, they should rectify that for you. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. And the other thing, if you buy privately, yes, you might, as I said before, you might buy more or less the same van for 20k instead of 24k. But unless you've thoroughly checked it and had it on a ramp, which is realistically is unlikely, you may end up spending a good portion of that 4k that you've saved on getting that van up to scratch. So as you can see, as I said right at the beginning, it is a minefield. So you need to tread very carefully, and now hopefully you can understand why you need to do that research that I spoke about, because you don't know what you don't know. And if, like me, on some of the things, you find out the hard way, it's too late.